usually I have my good friend Jay Robertson from Opportunity, Arkansas on Thursdays from for the 2 segments of the show for this hour. But Jay had unexpectedly had something come up, and he introduced me to one of the folks that's very familiar with the LEARNS Act, Gary Newton. And Gary, I want to welcome you to the show, first of all.
Well, thank you, Steve. Good to be here.
And I'm glad to have you. So give the audience a little background on yourself and how you got in with LEARNS, and then we'll start getting into the meat and potatoes.
Sure. I came to this work as a father, seeking the best education for my students. I, a native Arkansan, had moved away, father late in life, had children in Los Angeles, returned to my native Arkansas for a better life for my family. And I returned to a school district in Little Rock that was worse than when I left. Found a business community that had largely checked out, a district that was dominated by federal court, and people said that it's unfixable. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't believe that. So set about trying to make sure that my kids would have a good public school experience like I had. And that meant actually having public schools where people live in mm-hmm. West Little Rock. There were none. There was 2 elementary schools north of Chenal and east of I-430. There was no middle school. There was no high school. And so it was that work of going about and trying to raise attention about all that some folks took notice and asked me to start a business group that was focused on education, which is Arkansas Learns. We started in 2012, cut to 2023, and the governor borrows our name for the acronym for her landmark legislation. Okay.
And I was pretty sure it was you, but I remember going way back when about you and talking and seeing you on the news saying, I want my kids to go to school here and I want them to have a quality education. Now, and so we both agree on that, and both agree on wanting education, not an indoctrination. And that's what a lot of parents are upset about too, because, I just got this from Texas yesterday, and I had to fact check it myself because I do my utmost. I can't say that I'll never make a mistake, but I always try my utmost to give this audience the correct and factual information and let them make their own decisions.
So what you do with a smart audience.
Yes. And I'm sitting here, and as a conservative state as Arkansas and Texas are, I'm getting this thing from one of the listeners that listened online, said, Steve, they just caught a whole bunch of teachers here in Texas pushing Islam in the schools, and not Christianity or anything else. So I looked into it, and by golly, it's true. It's under investigation by the state, and people are fed up with that kind of stuff. They're fed up with the drag queen story time and all this other stuff that, they don't want their children exposed to. So the choice for parents to take to another school, whether it's a public school or a private school, I think is a good thing.
If COVID had any good that came out of it, it was the parents were engaged in their children's remote learning.
Yes.
And they saw things that they would not have accepted had that not happened. And we believe the exact same thing. A parent should be in charge of the student's education. Arkansas right now has 35% of its public school students considered proficient in reading. That's the core business of education, mm-hmm. is reading. If you don't learn to read, you cannot read to learn. So when you have 35% that are considered proficient and 28% that are considered not close, that's a problem.
Absolutely. And I was talking about our news partner. I'm going to reach out next week and try to see if I can get Jessica. She's like Toby. She's getting up probably a little bit even earlier because our news partners are on the air from 4 to 7 on Channel 4, and then 7, I think, to 9 on Channel 16. And Jessica might be tired by the time 4 o'clock rolls around. But I'm going to see if I can get her on just to speak a little bit about it, because I thought she did a very fair and balanced report. The teachers up in northern Pulaski County, I forget the name of the elementary school, that she did, but they had the principal and one of the teachers, and the kids, they brought in tutors, and it went from a failing school that teachers did not want to be assigned to because, I guess in the grand scheme of things, nobody really wants to fail, to now a desired school that people want to teach at, and parents are happy because it went from an F to a B, and that's pretty good.
Very good. And that's a big component of LEARNS is high-impact tutoring on reading. The science of reading has been talked about a lot in Arkansas over the past 7-8 years. We all know about the Mississippi Miracle and the highest growth rates in the country. There is no reason Arkansas cannot replicate that. And I think it's largely an indictment of our teacher preparation programs in the state. For some reason, the way you and I learned to read through phonics, decoding, sounding out words was jettisoned, and they went to a whole language approach of essentially memorization.
Oh, wow.
And repetition.
See, I didn't know that. Yes, I learned phonics. Do they even diagram sentences anymore?
Exactly. Wasn't that, that we all did.
Yes.
And you had different level reading groups, so people were brought along. We had 30-plus kids in our elementary classes. I don't know how it was for you, but there were a lot of kids being educated in a classroom at different levels.
Well, I pointed this out. I went to parochial school in New York City. I'm Catholic, and my cousin, three of my cousins that are close to me in age, the other two, we all had a teacher that our mothers had, so we couldn't get away with a thing. As firsters, not the first or second graders are into much mischief, but nonetheless. And then I went to 1 year of public school in New Jersey, and my parents weren't satisfied, and they switched me back to the Catholic school that we had. Now, the public schools in New Jersey averaged around 25 students per teacher. In some of the Catholic schools, there were 50 kids. But here's the difference. On the standardized state testing, both the public schools and all the private schools in New Jersey had to take these tests at the same time. Our school consistently beat the public schools in Middletown Township as per class with a higher teacher. But, there was patriotism. We said the Pledge of Allegiance and sang God Bless America every morning and prayed. And that was a big thing for my parents. That was when, public schools had removed all semblance of prayer. And then again, half the teachers knew my mom and dad because they were at church.
Accountability.
And there was accountability. And I can assure you, with Mama and Papa Finn, as my friends affectionately called my parents, you did not want to go home to Mama Finn and say, for example, Mrs. Gallagher had to punish me today because Mrs. Gallagher would see Mom in church on Sunday and say, Stephen was doing this in school, Mary, and then you get double dose. You get punished in school, and then your mother and father are like, yeah, well, you're not going to play this game.
Parents were firmly in the corner of the teachers.
Yes, and teaching is a noble profession.
Absolutely.
My grandfather, Finnegan, he taught school, was a football coach. He was actually a chemist for DuPont, and God put a stronger desire to teach, and he got offered a job teaching physics, chemistry, and algebra, and then went to the high school as a teacher, then athletic director. He coached football, basketball, and baseball, which a lot of teachers do to make extra money. But, I can remember as a kid, some of my grandfather's football players that were my age now and your age that were coming to visit him because he had two houses. He was an excellent carpenter. He built his own house, cottage on the lake. They had a house in town, and then the one at the lake. And Grandpa built that with my father.
Wow. By
himself. And, when my grandmother passed, he sold the house in town and moved out to the cottage and winterized it. So they'd come visit him. And I remember that. I cherish those memories. My grandfather and I were extraordinarily close. Both my grandparents I was blessed to have with that. And welcome back, everyone, to the Steve Finnegan Show here on KARN, KFAY, and, of course, all across the fruited plain. So I have a little bit of trouble getting through so many text messages. So please be patient. I will try to catch them up on the next break at the top of the hour. But I have with me Gary Newton, who was a concerned father, if you're just joining us, that started the LEARNS program directed at the Little Rock schools. And then Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders liked what he named it and took that for her LEARNS Act. So, Gary, you've been in this for a while now, since 2012. Your children, I'm assuming, have graduated by now.
They have. One has graduated from both my alma mater and yours in successive days, and then they're twins. And my son also graduated from my alma mater.
UA?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I went to ASU.
Yeah, but I said my daughter on a Saturday, after she graduated at Fayetteville on a Friday, and then on a Saturday graduated from A-State.
So, well, at least you got to see both graduations.
Absolutely.
That would have been a hard one, especially I didn't know you had twins.
Yes, got it all. Blessed.
I am
beyond measure.
Glad to hear that. So it's like I said, the one teacher from Little Rock, and by the way, yes, I've gotten a ton of teachers that have texted in. The teacher from Little Rock that said that they need a psychiatrist or psychologist or somebody to counsel children whose parents have been murdered. And I have gotten everything from Steve. I've been teaching for 15 years, and the highest one was 30, texting in and said, in all my years of teaching, from 15 to 30 years, the various text messages, I've never had a student have a parent murdered. But you never know with Mayor Mayhem here in Little Rock what's going to happen. So maybe she's anticipating something. So as far as the program's growth, it's been pretty substantial over the last couple of years, and parents are seeing some benefits, obviously, and that's why they're exercising this. So where do you see this going in the future?
Well, I wanted to stress that the LEARNS Act is all of the above. There are two statements in the opening clause of the 14th, Article 14 of the Arkansas Constitution, and it talks about the state shall ever maintain a general and suitable, efficient, of free public schools. Mm-hmm. This really predated school districts. They said a system. They didn't say school districts. That's what we've had over the last century, which is important. That's how we're going to educate the bulk of our students. But it has a conjunction. It says, and shall adopt all suitable means to secure to the people the advantages and opportunities of education. That's the all of the above.
Yes.
And one could reasonably argue that before LEARNS, we only did half of that. We didn't guarantee all of the other opportunities in education. Those were reserved for only those with means that could foot the entire bill.
My parents, my mom went back to work because they, and let me tell you, if you want to complain about property taxes, New Jersey's got the highest in the nation, and you're lucky if your property taxes are about $1,000 a month on top of your mortgage and interest in homeowners. I know this because when both parents passed, I was the executor, so Big brother was handling everything, and little brother and little sister were happy. But, I kept them informed. But, my parents had paid off their home, and, I was paying $1,000 a month just in property taxes till we got the house sold. It's kind of crazy.
It is.
But, Jay's brought this up. Now, don't hold me exactly to this, but I think he said that the LEARNS Act is giving about approximately 80% of the money that the public school would get if the student was in the public school.
Well, it's less than that.
Okay.
It's 90% of the state foundation funding. So that's just one category of state funding. 90% of that core funding. It's none of the categorical funding that comes in for special needs, for any other specialty transportation, all those other things. And it ignores that local funding, essentially above the 25 mills that has to go to the state, 100% of that funding stays at the local school district, whether they have one student or 100,000. Okay. So essentially you could look at it, there was about 60,000 students that were in private or homeschool when the EFAs began. Once you cross that threshold, the state starts saving money.
Mm-hmm. And
in fact, if you had everyone on an EFA right now, it would save billions. But that's not the goal. But the cost is essentially 5% on EFAs of all education spending in Arkansas. And oh, by the way, no money was taken from any district to fund the EFAs. So
EFA is Education Freedom Account.
Education Freedom Accounts. Yes, sorry for the acronym.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure the audience knew what you were talking about. Now, this is going to surprise you because I told you this would be the fastest 30 minutes of your life. We got about 45 seconds left, so I'm going to let you have the floor to close out with your closing thoughts.
Oh, thank you so much. Just like Congress has the Affordable Care Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, we now have a group led by the NEA and AEA that are trying to get something on our Constitution to embed massive social spending welfare programs, and they call it the Educational Rights Amendment, which is exactly opposite of what it does. It takes away rights, so people should read that before they sign.
Gary, I appreciate you being in. I'll have you back. All right, folks, back after the news.